So let's talk really quickly about how to create more value in your rentals. Some of this stuff is pretty straightforward. Uh, and again, some of this stuff is, and again, in my experience, depending on if you own single family rentals in Wellesley, it might be a completely different list of items for you. What I'm speaking here is the majority of our client base between, let's say, 20 minutes south of the city and 20 minutes south of the city, and a lot of, triple deckers and duplexes within the city. So these are some of the things that you can do to, add a little bit more value to your tenants, charge them a little bit more rent, and ultimately sell for a higher price when that time comes. Washer and dryer connections. I would advise you, if you're going to put a washer and dryer connection in your building, add them to the basement. Make your tenants come down to the basement in a perfect world and do their laundry down there. And again, not all basements look great. Some of them smell, some are very cluttered. But if you can clean up a nice space in your basement, I would much rather see you put a washer and dryer hookup or a coin-operated machine in your basement. Number one reason, I think many of you probably get this right off the top. If you put a washer machine on the third floor in a triple decker and it overflows, you have a problem. You have a nightmare on your hands. That is not what you want to do. In a perfect world, your tenant would love to have the machine inside their unit, but sometimes machines break. That's just what they do. The dishwasher already uses enough water. You don't want to have a machine full of water overfill, especially on your third floor, and now it's leaking into units 2, unit 1, and all the way straight to the basement. Ideally, if you're going to have a spill, have it inside your basement. If pipes break, whatever it be, have it inside your basement. The other reason is because it's going to be cheaper for you to install. All your utilities, your hot water tank, your electricity is already in the basement. It's easier for a plumber and electrician to come install those utilities right in the basement. The third reason, and it's a little less important, the reason I love the basement as a location for that, machines on spin cycle shake. You have let's say a 50 or 60 pound machine, or say a 100-pound machine shaking on the third floor of a 100-year-old home. They're going to feel that on units. They're going to feel that in unit 2 and most likely unit 1 as well. Not as big an issue, but it's more just the water and the damage that it could cause, and the disturbance that it could cause to your tenants below, should that happen. Add air conditioning. Again, if you do not have ductwork in your apartment, if you're one of the fortunate people that have forced hot air, it's very easy to add AC to your units. Add AC condensers, a couple $1,000s a piece. It provides cooling and comfort to your units. It gets you closer to a potential condo conversion sometime down the road, and you can charge a little bit more if there's no window AC. If you have oil or if you have baseboard heating, there's a good chance that you're going to have to do some type of window AC, unless you can use the newer wall units that they have. That might make a little bit of sense. Adding storage. If you do not have storage, you're going to find that tenants are going to throw everything into the basement, or they're going to throw it on their back porch or in the back hallways. You really, in a perfect world, would have, if you have a triple decker, 3 storage bins in your basement. They have a padlock on them. Not very expensive to build. You're talking about a couple 2x4s and some plywood. You don't need to do anything fancy. It's a plywood door with a couple hinges on it and a padlock. Just something they can put anything that doesn't necessarily belong in their apartment, they don't want in their apartment, down in the basement. It provides, between the laundry and the AC and the storage, it also provides, it helps your tenant feel a little bit more comfortable in their home, which would most likely encourage them to stay a little bit longer as well. You can create an enhanced outdoor space. As more and more people move into the city of Boston, we have great parks, but sometimes you just want to be able to hang out in your backyard, your porch, a side space. Is there an area that you can clean up and put, a $100, Home Depot, bench out back, and some of your small backyards, somebody can have a nice cookout or something like that. As long as it's safe and you can provide an outdoor space. A lot of roof decks going in. That may not be something that's very cost effective, but if your plan is to convert to condos down the road, it may make sense to add a roof deck early on, and have that as an outdoor space for one of your tenants. Providing off-street parking, again, this is not something that you can just randomly do. You obviously have to have the space. Increasing the rents, and we talked about that. We talked about the more people buy rental property because of the amount of rent it's producing. two triple deckers side by side, same condition, same windows, same roof, same year it's built. Everything else being equal, the one that collects more rent is going to be worth more. So if you want to increase the value of your building, you also will want to keep a steady increase in your rents, as long as they're not exceeding market value. You may not want to be exactly at market value. If you have a long-term tenant, you may want to do them a solid and keep them a couple $100s below. And I would personally, if I was you, I'd let them know, I'm increasing your rent $100, next year, but if you look at where rents are, I'm increasing you to $1,600. Rents for this unit are $1,800. So I'm helping you out, but I cannot, as a landlord, have myself fall $400 or $500, behind what the market rate, for this building is, or this unit is. And then keeping a maintenance schedule. It's not very difficult, and I'm going to talk about that on the next slide. Keeping a maintenance schedule is basically, it's preventive maintenance. Don't wait for problems to happen. Be proactive and actually go out there and address them before they happen. I'll talk to you a little bit about what exactly I mean by that. So unit appliances. So again, doesn't need to be very complex, but let's say you bought a new refrigerator for unit 1 in your building. I'm going to keep an Excel spreadsheet for each unit, each apartment, each building, whatever it may be, and I'm going to say new Frigidaire appliance purchased September 2016 in unit 1. Why am I going to do that? Why is that important to me? Because as I start to accumulate rentals, and as I start to build the years in this business, appliances, a refrigerator, it might have a certain useful life on it. You might look at down the road, you might say, wow, it was 6 years ago that I bought that refrigerator for that unit. That may, like I said, it's probably going to need to be serviced soon. It's probably going to come up. The other reason is, look at it from a reverse side. If instead of having a feeling that you just did something, or have dates and documentation and everything else, if I purchased it in 2016, now it's broken in 2018, I want to be able to take note. There's a problem there. Either Frigidaire is a horrible brand and I shouldn't buy Frigidaire anymore, or the tenant may be using the refrigerator in a way that is decreasing its useful life substantially, and I want to take note. So I would encourage you not just to go in and say, I'm going to buy a new refrigerator and throw it in and forget about it. I would take note at when those things are done, and it basically helps you over the years to create some type of, like I said, I know, like I said, this apartment was updated in 2006. I know it's 2016. It's been 10 years. It's probably going to need to be updated again pretty soon in terms of dishwasher, appliances, and everything else. Heating system maintenance. We live in New England. It gets really cold, and one of the most important pieces, most important things you have in your building is the heating system for each unit. I would encourage you during the summer, during the the fall, the spring, to get a plumber out there when it's not an emergency situation, and have them make sure that it's serviced and the lines are bled or whatever else it is that they do. But plumbers make money, or plumbers can be very expensive to you when a heating system breaks in the middle of February. And the reason it usually, breaks down in the middle of February is because it wasn't serviced, over the years. It's always, people are always trying to solve a problem after, it happens, and then it turns into an emergency, and the plumber says, well, I got 3 other jobs ahead of you, I can come, but it's going to be $350 or whatever it may be. When he probably would, or he or she probably would have done it for $150 when they're slow in the middle of the winter, in the middle of the summer. So keeping that system and making sure that you're checking that off. Hot water tanks, typical life on a hot water tank, I believe, is 6 to 9 years. 6 is probably the lowest amount. So a lot of landlords, and a really smart thing for you to do, is right on the side of the hot water tank. I'm installing a hot water tank September 2016. I'm going to take a black Sharpie and write on the hot water tank, I'm going to write September 2016. So I know in September, as the years go on, I know that 6 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to start making sure that my reserve budget is healthy, and I'm going to start expecting that hot water tank to go. I can tell you from experience, hot water tanks go like when they say they're going to go, they go like exactly when they say they're going. They don't typically say it's a 6-year hot water tank and then have it last 10 years. It literally goes like 6 years and 1 month down to day. So you can almost count on that. Same thing with your heating systems. If I install a new heating system, I'm going to write right on it. The other reason I'm going to do that is because you never know when there's going to be another opportunity. You might say, I'm going to keep this building for 10 years or 15 years. There might be a perfect opportunity for you to trade up or do something else, and it might be a time where you need to sell. one of the number one questions that people have when they buy buildings is, how was the heating system? When is this hot water tank installed? I have all that information, so it's easier for me to produce. We're not going to be guessing. I'm not going to have a home inspector come in and, tell my potential buyers that it's much older than it is. No, there's going to be a date right on there with an invoice that I have in file, and, service records that I have. And I'm going to be, as preventative as possible to keep my building at, at a healthy, state. Know exactly what's going on. Getting my air ducts cleaned out. Again, if you have duct work, that may make sense. If you don't, then, skip it. Common area exterior lighting. I can tell you, depending on where you are, actually, scratch that. The common area, you just want to make sure that your common areas are well lit. You don't want to have, back hallway lights, bulbs go out. Your tenant is not going to change that. If they're a great tenant, they may. A typical tenant is probably going to say, it's not my problem. The second floor light is out. The problem that you have is, if the tenant's walking down the back hallway with trash or anything like that, they trip. Again, not in the, like I said, if you have a career tenant that likes to complain, you may have a problem on your hands. That's never happened to me. I never had, but I'm the type of person, I want to be ahead of the game and make sure all these different scenarios that could possibly happen, I'm preventing them from happening. So basements and common area, and even the exterior of your home as well, you want to be lit. You want to make sure that you're going over there on a monthly basis, or sending someone over there on a monthly basis to make sure that the exterior lighting is changed. And then the smoke detector batteries. You'll find often, and you probably have done this as a tenant yourself, or like I said, maybe even in your personal home, remove the batteries from an annoying smoke detector. Tenants do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. You can't make them keep the batteries in there. But what you can do is keep some type of log saying, I went into the apartment, I scheduled an appointment, and I went into the apartment in September of 2016 on this date, and what I did for each unit, I checked on the smoke detectors, I made sure that they were all working, and I put new batteries in there. If you have that log, and there was ever a situation where there was a fire or smoke, and somebody claims, well, hey, the smoke detectors were inoperative, or they weren't working, you have a log basically saying, hey, this is exactly when I did this maintenance. I do this maintenance on a yearly basis. I send, my handy guy over there. He changes the smoke detectors, or he changes the batteries out in the smoke detectors. We do it in the common areas. We made sure everything was working. If you at that time remove them, then, like I said, I would encourage them, your tenants, not to remove them. But it's something that, like I said, it's inside their unit. There's nothing you can really do about it at that time. You can't be there. But at least you have a log protecting yourself and showing that you've done that maintenance. A lot of times I go into units and the smoke detectors are literally hanging off the wall. There's like wires hanging out of them, and it's not a safe environment for your tenants, and it's not a a safe investment for you, long term. So that's a preventive maintenance schedule. Again, depending on your building, your unit, what type of rental you have. I mean, some of these things may not even be, if you're an investor who buys condos and rents them out, great, that's perfect. Some of these things may not be applicable to you. You want to create your own maintenance schedule based on the things the things that you need. Are there sensors or monitoring systems that you can use to monitor the condition and tenant uses of appliance, heating systems, or other equipment via the internet? I don't know. So basically, can you monitor the use of your tenants' appliances? That sounds very expensive to me, to be quite honest. There may be systems that do that. I do not know. To be quite honest, I wish I could answer the question, but I do not know the answer to that. It would be really cool, and if you could, if you do come across something like that, I would be very interested in learning about what that system is as well, because that would be very helpful in terms of determining whether you should be buying new appliances, or like I said, going another way. Last couple of slides, I believe this is the last one or two. Let's talk about what what you can do to help yourself make this easier. So we talked about, 80% of this presentation was talking about what does a property manager do, or what do you do as a landlord if you're going to be doing it on its own. So basically what a property manager does is essentially all the same things that I just laid out for you. So it's your choice if this seems very, very complex to you, or not even complex. If it seems very, very time-consuming to you, then maybe it's best for you to hire a property manager. And that's really how you make that decision. Is you understand fully what it takes to put a tenant in your unit, to monitor that tenant's needs, to move that tenant out and move a new tenant in, to keep track of leases, be organized. If you feel like you go through some of these things and you're not the most organized person, or you don't have the time because you have, 3 kids at home and you're running your own business and you're going back to school, then yeah, I mean, you still want to invest in rentals, and maybe it makes sense for you to take some of this, off your hands and hire a property manager. So let's talk a little bit about what you can consider. If you're living out of state, I would say 100% hire a property manager. It just doesn't make any sense. You really want to understand what what's going on in your building. I'm the type of person, I wouldn't say I'm a micromanager, but I really want to understand. This is your investment. This is your retirement package in many senses. You really want to understand what's going on. Things can quickly slip away and devalue your building if you're gone for a period of time and no one's paying attention, and you have this person moving in and that person moving in, and lights are broken on the exterior, and now the fence is broken out. Your building is going to fall apart if you don't have anybody paying attention. If you're out of state or 3 to 4 hours away or something like that, I mean, I guess you would be out of state in that case, you should have a property manager. Do you have the time? So again, does it make sense for you to do this? If you're going through this presentation, you're saying the things that Willie is telling me is very complex or very time consuming, and it just seems like it's more work than I can handle, then yeah, then you probably should consider a property manager. I can tell you that I'm not a handy person. I know my way around a drill and a couple other tools and a toilet auger and some of the basic things that I need. I still hire plumbers on a regular basis. I still hire electricians on a regular basis. I still hire handymen on a regular basis. But if you're saying that you're just kind of like, I just don't want to touch any of this stuff, then maybe you don't need a property manager, but I would at least have someone who is a handyman or handy woman that can help you out on a regular basis, because there are going to be things that just pop up. Even if the hedges are overgrown, who is doing that? And if you don't, like I said, if you're not the type of person that's going to get out there really quickly and with a couple, hedge chippers or hedge cutters, then, like I said, consider that. Are you good with numbers? You don't have to be an accountant, but you do have to have some type of organizational skills when you're talking about, let's say, 3 people paying your rent, 6 people paying your rent, 10 people paying your rent, and this person pays you a portion of the rent. I wouldn't say you have to be an accountant or you have to be a, financial genius, but if you are struggling already managing your personal home bills, then yeah, you might want to hire a property manager to crunch those numbers for you. The only thing I can say about that is your mortgage being paid and your taxes and insurance being paid, make sure those things are done. I would never encourage you to hire a property manager and throw everything onto them and basically say, yeah, I'm going to throw my hands up and hopefully this person does right by me. Property managers are people too. Property management companies are businesses. People make mistakes. People are sometimes corrupt. Businesses go bankrupt. Businesses go belly under. I can tell you that if you're going to hire someone and they're going to be paying your bills for them, I would at least be checking up to make sure that mortgage is paid. I'd be calling that mortgage company or getting some type of logging on to my mortgage statement and making sure that mortgage is paid and your credit score is protected and everything else, at the very least, if you're going to have the property manager do everything else for you. I can tell you, and again, I'm going to try to quickly finish up because I know we're going on 2 hours now. I've had a friend of mine who owned a piece of property in Florida. She lived in Massachusetts. She hired a property manager, and she basically just set it and forget it. Bad move. The property manager went out of business. Didn't tell her. They continued to collect her tenant's rent and never paid her mortgage. She was basically just taking the rent. They would continue to take the rent checks, collect the rent checks, and I don't know what they did with the money. She didn't find out till 6 months later, when she got some type of credit alert from whatever credit card she's using, and her, like I said, she's in trouble by then. Her property's, 6 months behind on their mortgage payments, your credit scores. So I would say at the very least, again, I'm not telling you this stuff to discourage you or say don't use a property manager, but at the very least, pay attention to the things that really, really matter, and that is the numbers, when it comes down to it. So I would always make sure that my mortgage is being paid. Even if it's being paid by them, log on and check to make sure that the payment is getting there every month. How large is your rental portfolio? If you own a 3-family or 2-family and you live in one, or if you're close by, for me personally, I would say once you get once you're, in double digits, once you're getting to 8, 9, 10, 12 units, then you're going to seriously want to consider hiring a property manager if you want your portfolio to continue to grow. The acquisition side of it is probably where you want to spend your time. That's the most, the most important part. And then you can start, like I said, maybe managing it until you get up to a certain point where you're like, this doesn't make any sense for me. I know a lot about the business, so I know what I'm looking for in a property manager, but I'm going to pass this off to somebody else and let them handle the day-to-day. Do you have enough cash to spare? That's another thing. Let's say hypothetically you're only cash flowing a couple $100 every month at the end of the day. The most property management companies in Boston, for the full spectrum, they're going to do physical maintenance and financial maintenance. They're going to charge about 8% of gross rents. 8%. So you collect $1,000, they want $80 to manage that unit on a monthly basis. If you're only collecting a couple $100 in cash flow, then it may not, you may not, whether it makes sense or not, you may not even have enough money at the end of the day to hire a property manager. Are your assets standalone buildings or condos? Obviously, if it's a standalone building, you're going to need a little bit more help. If it's a condo, then the snow is probably taken care of for you and several other things, and the building is pretty much managed by the condo association. You probably don't need a property manager. Can I hire a local real estate agent to cover your needs? So when we talked about the marketing and lease process, I think, and again, depending on your time and depending on what you do outside of your rentals, it may make a lot of sense for you to hire a local real estate agent to rent your apartments out. I'll give you a couple reasons why. You put an ad out on Craigslist. Number one, if you're working a 9-to-5 job, you're going to be getting calls all day long. Your phone is going to be blowing up. You're going to be getting text messages. You're going to be getting voicemails. Do you have time to call all these people back and evaluate them, send them applications, and answer all these questions about the units? Even the same stuff that you put in the ad, you better believe that they're going to call you, excuse me, and ask the same exact questions that are already in ads. So do you have the time? Do you have the time to show the apartment? Some people are going to be daytime people. Some are going to be weekend people. Some of the people are morning people. They're going to be requests to see your apartments all the time. Do you have time to follow up? Do you have time to pull that credit report? Do you have time to pull the bank, the background check? Do you have time to call their employer and verify their employment verification? These are all the things that a real estate agent, if you are renting out an apartment in the city of Boston, can do for you as a landlord. You ultimately make the final decision on which applicant you take. Let's say hypothetically, I'm your real estate agent. I'm going to bring you an application. I'm going to say, here's the background check, here's the credit check. I am verified the employment. I am verified their employment. They meet your credit score. Here are the things. Like I said, if you'd like to meet them, great. If you want to go based on the application, great. We can move on. Typically, and again, I don't know how it is out in every single town. If you go to Weymouth, it's something completely different than what is in the city. But if you live in the city of Boston, the tenant is usually responsible for the fee. So you as a landlord don't need to cover anything. The tenant, again, if your rental is $2,000, the tenant is typically going to pay first security or first and last plus the realtor fee. And so you as a landlord are completely covered. Like I said, the agent is also going to draft the lease for you, get your lease addendums in there, make sure everything is signed, deliver the keys, deliver your checks to you. So for that service, and again, not costing you anything, it may make a lot of sense for you to use a real estate agent. Maybe you want to do the first couple yourself to understand fully what is involved. But one of the things that I would discourage you from doing is slacking on the requirements because you don't have the time. What we find is typical landlords get in, they know they need to do a background check, and they know they need to do a credit check and an employment verification, and it all sounds great, but when they start getting those calls, they just take anyone because they realize they don't have the time to get these things done. In that particular situation, I would definitely encourage you to hire a local real estate agent, have them help you market the property, take photos, show the apartment, do the leases, do all the background credit checks, and again, the tenant is responsible for the fee at that point. Any questions? Don't appear to be any at the moment. If you want those landlord-tenant forums that I was telling you about, this is how you access them. You can text the words free forms, no spaces, just one word, free forms, to 44222. If you have any trouble with it, let me know, and I can possibly email them to you later on if that's a little bit easier for you. But this is how you can download them immediately. Again, texting the words free forms to the number 44222. For those of you who joined us late, at the bottom of this webinar, there should be access to two handouts. One is called Property Management, Mandrelco, and that is a copy of all the slides. So if you want to review them later and kind of go over them, you certainly can. And the other is what can I afford to pay for rent? It's something that you could possibly hand to your tenants, something you should be familiar with as well. For those of you that missed it, I think it's very important. As you're searching for a tenant, there should be an income to rent ratio there. So essentially, if I'm a tenant, if I'm applying for your apartment and I make $1,000 a month, my rent probably should not be any more than $500 a month. After that, you're going to get in trouble, and that's what that form explains to you, and it's something you can provide to your tenants as well to keep you out of trouble. Again, no questions at the time. If you have any questions and you weren't able to answer today, or if you hopped on late, you can email me at willie@mandrelco.com. I'd love to answer your questions, chat with you for a little bit. If you have any rental questions, it's somebody I can connect you with, something that's a little bit legal, or something that I can refer a CPA to you, or anybody in the industry, a plumber, electrician, a handyman. Let me know. We have people on the North Shore, we have people on the South Shore, in the city of Boston as well. If I can help in any way, definitely let me know, and I would love to. So again, you can reach me at willie@mandrelco.com. Give me a couple of days to get back to you. Like I said, I'm typically running around doing something with one of my rentals or something else. But I would love to hear from you. Any feedback, again, from the webinar is definitely appreciated as well. Thanks again for joining me on this Saturday morning. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend, and like I said, look forward to seeing you at one of our networking meetings or one of our rehab tours as well. All right, talk to you soon.